Hey, it's Sam, and I wanted to tell you about this special holiday that's happening here on Monday, April 20th. It's called Akshaya Tritiya, and it's a very special day in Hinduism and Indian, ceremonies and Indian culture, because it's actually an astrological day where we have both the sun and the moon exalted, and so the sun will be in Aries and the moon will be in Taurus in its highest exaltation in Kritika Nakshatra on Monday, April 20th, especially here in the West. On the East Coast, Tritiya begins around 7:30 in the morning, so it's basically for the whole day. On the East Coast, it'll start, like I say, around 10:30 in the morning. But so by the middle of the day and into the early part of Tuesday, it's Akshaya Tritiya. At least that's the lunar day. Now these are based on the titis, which shows the sun, which shows the moon and it's in its separation from the sun based on the ecliptic longitude. But without getting so technical, essentially we have both the sun and the moon exalted. This is auspicious because, the sun and the moon are the two lights. And it's the reason there's life on Earth is because of the sun, which gives the power, the full power. Of course, in case you forgot, you should try to remember that the reason you're alive is because of the sun. And I don't just mean a long time ago, I mean right this second. If the sun stopped shining, everything would be dead immediately. And of course the moon also, and going around the Earth and regulating all of the seasons on the Earth and the oceanic tides and all of the creative cycles on Earth. That's the reason why life exists on this Earth. All of the fertility cycles and whatnot are timed to the moon. If the moon were to fly out of its orbit, life would also cease on Earth very quickly. So both of these two planets, having them both exalted and in their own, highest, most elevated point is very important. And so this is the one day, and it's said that Akshaya Tritiya, which is the third lunar day, is the more auspicious, because the fourth lunar day, which is the next one called Chaturthi, is less auspicious. So Akshaya Tritiya here on Monday, it's a great day for creativity, beginnings of sort for sure. And it's said that Vedavyasa began writing the Mahabharata on Akshaya Tritiya. Lord Ganesha and Vedavyasa began composing the Mahabharata, which is the great Indian epic, on Akshaya Tritiya. So it's a great day for you to, let's say, work on writing projects or any other type of creative endeavors. And just in a general sense, though, having both luminaries, the sun and the moon, exalted, not only gives us a great, sort of channel to our inner light and inner strength, which is the sun, but also our heart and that deeper feeling that we have to that universal self through the heart. Because, basically what happens in life is we emanate from the Paramatman, from the Supreme Self, from the Sun, of which there is no second. It's the one without a second. That's the Supreme Sun. Not the self of this separateness, but the universal self. The self of this separateness is actually related to the ascendant, the rising sign. That's what produced the body. Sun and moon and earth create this separate being, because the sun and moon on a causal level, and then the earth on the material level. And so the ascendant, some people say, where's the earth in the birth chart? Well, the earth is the ascendant. People say, that's the weird thing about astrology is the earth isn't there. Yes, it is. It's the ascendant. It's where you are, and it's the moment you took form. So the two identity factors, which are the ascendant, which is your individual self in this lifetime, the individual incarnation, this rising sign, which shows that how you participate in life through this matrix of the body and the senses and your presence, that's all related to the ascendant. In between the ascendant and the sun, which is the universal self, is the moon, or the mind, which is actually the heart. In Eastern thinking, we say the mind. Don't be confused. The mind doesn't mean the intellect. That's called the buddhi, which is related to Mercury. The mind literally means the heart. And the buddhi, or the intellect, comes from the heart, emanates from the heart. So this is what the moon is. The moon, they just call that the mind in Indian thinking. It's much easier. It's the emotional mind stuff, the feeling of being alive, and the need to integrate all of these separate experiences through the ascendant and integrate them toward that universal self. The only way to integrate all of these disparate, separate experiences is through the heart. Wish there was another way, but there isn't. Sorry to break the news to you, but you can't fight your way to liberation. You can't eat your way to liberation. You can't dream your way and hope your way to liberation. Now, I know people are going to argue with me. Oh, yes, you can. Okay. It's going to go through the heart, though. Whatever. It's going to go through the heart. It's where we need to relax into fullness, where we need to dissolve all of the separate sharp edges of our ego and of our identity and all these things we think they need to be a certain way, and all these things, all these ideas that we have based on our experience as a separate creature need to be dissolved through the heart into, and they're dissolved into the heart toward that supreme self. So when the sun and moon are both powerful, like on Akshaya Tritiya, there's a great possibility that you can see that reflection, that individuality, those individual experiences reflected on the screen of consciousness toward a clear sense of self beyond just the personality. In a more cosmic sense. In a more mundane sense, you just feel that power and that heart in great alignment. Now, when we have the new moons, it's also close, but what happens then is that the sun is really kind of burning up the moon. So our experience through the heart is less tangible and visceral. On Akshaya Tritiya, the moon is in Taurus, which is where the moon is settled, so we can really feel settled in our heart at that time as well. So again, it's also a good time for creative endeavors. Exalted moon is very good for feeling connected to family and to culture and to love and beauty, and how those things really support our spiritual growth is important, because we have to calm down and settle down in order to dissolve all of that stuff that I talked about, all of those experiences where some things feel good, some things don't, attractions and aversions. It's hard, and it makes our heart kind of restless. So one of the great things about when the moon is in Taurus is that the highest qualities of Taurus is contentment, santosha. Santosha means just contentment with what is. You're alive, and you live in a world of beauty, and if you can just come into the present moment, there's no problems, ever. You can have a lot of ideas about why you have problems and why things are, bad, and you need this thing, and this person said this to you, and if this just worked out, then it would be okay. All of that stuff. All that exists in the mind of time, past and future, past and future. In the present moment, there is none of that. There is no time. Present moment, there's no time to think. And if you can come into the present moment and sink into the truth, sink into the heart where there's just pure feeling and silence and love and peace, that's it. Then you reach a state of santosha, of contentment with all of that, and liberation is very quick at that point. Or at least samadhi is very quick, which is the unbroken flow of that unbroken flow between your experience in the world and the universal self is called samadhi, when there's that unbroken flow. You can't experience samadhi without santosha. Samadhi is where you meditate and you have an unbroken flow with the universal self, where the separate self and the universal self are in flow. The reason we're not in flow now, the reason there isn't samadhi, is because of emotion in the moon. because of that feeling. That feeling is interrupting that direct flow from your personal experience to your universal self. Personal experience, separate experiences through the ascendant, which has to do with what you're doing. You need to sit and be still. That's the thing you need to do through the body. And then the mind needs to be still, and if the mind is still, then there is samadhi. Then you're connected to cosmic consciousness. So that can happen at any time. One of the great things about Akshaya Tritiya is with both the sun and the moon powerful. Sun is very bright in Aries, shining. Moon is very still and content. And it's possible to have the moon very still and content in Taurus. So ponder that. And I hope you have a good Akshaya Tritiya.